Hi, it's Sarah from Crafty Creatures here with our panda painting. We're going to need a pencil and eraser, our canvas panel, some paint brushes, something to wash our brushes in, and of course our paints. We're going to start with our canvas portrait so it's taller than it is wide. We're going to go just a little bit up from the bottom. We're going to make a nice round egg shape. And on top of this egg shape, we're going to overlap it with a circle. We're going to add a pair of front legs, one kind of forward, one kind of back. And we're going to add a circle to the back with a little oval on the bottom to make the back foot. A nice little round tail. And just a little half oval for the other back foot because we don't really see it. Now to the head, we can add a little pair of round ears and a nice little mouth and nose. I'm going to add a pair of kind of round triangle shapes with the eyes in the middle. That's that nice eye shape. And we can round this circle out, give it a little bit more cheeks. It helps make that panda's head look nice and squishy and cute. And we can erase any inside lines we don't need. Just helps make our painting look a bit cleaner in the end. I'm going to make some little lines for us to follow for our black. So our front legs are going to be black and we're going to have a little cut out where they kind of connect, kind of like they're wearing a little sweater. And this is just going to be below the head and just going to kind of connect the front legs together. We can add a little half circle in each ear, and that's it for our drawing steps. Now it's time to paint. We're going to start with some big scoops of yellow, a nice generous sized scoop of white, and a bit of green. It's going to make a nice light green that's got a bit of warmth to it because of our yellow. We're going to use this color to fill in all of our background. We're going to cover the whole background, everything that is not panda. So I like to use my smaller brush that I use to mix my color to do my outline. It makes it a bit easier to fill in. And we should always use a smaller brush for mixing because our big brushes will steal a lot of our paint. So I'm just going to outline my panda and then I'm going to paint in my background with my bigger brush. Make sure to spread your paint out nice and thin and smooth it out. Just makes it dry a lot better and a lot smoother for you. Make sure you get the space in between the legs and that you don't accidentally go over the legs. We are going to paint them in black, so if we do, it's not a big deal. It just makes it easier to see if we don't paint over those lines by accident. So next we're going to take a bunch of white and just a tiny bit of brown, just the littlest bit. I added a bit too much, so I'm going to add some more white. And we're going to use this very light color that's almost white, and we're going to paint over all of our white areas. This is just going to help make our panda look a little bit more natural. And it's also going to give us something to do a little bit of blending to. Any of our areas that will be white, we're going to fill in with this color. Next, we're going to take a little brush and our brown paint, and we're just going to feather the edges of wherever our black is going to be into our brown. It's just a little fancy trick just to make the fur look a little bit more real. And it also will help us to see where our black areas are a little bit better. Now we're going to make a very dark brown, so just a bit of brown to a lot of black. Just helps make it a little bit less flat, because black can be very flat. We're going to use this color to fill in all of our black areas. So you can see as I'm putting it on, it looks pretty much almost black, but it's still got a little bit of brown in there, so it's got a little bit of warmth. Again, this just helps to make our pandas look a little bit more real and just softens them up a bit. So we want to paint in that little kind of almost sweater like between the chest and the two legs. I like to work from one side across, so I'm doing this side of my ears and my eyes. I'm leaving the inner ears alone for now. I just do this that way so I'm not laying my hand on wet paint as I'm working, especially using a dark color like black, because we definitely do not want to smudge it. You can also fill in the eye patches. We can even cover up our eyes if we want to, because we're going to paint them in with a different color later. I had left them alone and then I ended up painting them over so I had a better paint job later on. We can also paint in that very cute little nose and that mouth. And then we're going to carry on painting in the rest of our black areas. So that's the front legs, that little bit of connecting space between our front legs and our neck, and our back legs as well as our tail. And our back legs is going to include that kind of first circle we drew, that's kind of the hip, because that black kind of comes up and around onto the body. So we've covered up pretty much all that brown, but it just gives just a little bit of a border between the white and the black. It gives it a nice look. Next we're going to make a pink using a little bit of red to a bit of white. We can also add a touch of brown to make it a little bit more natural. And we're just going to use this little bit of color to fill in the insides of our ears. You can also use a little bit of orange if you want a more peachy pink. It's up to you. So next we're going to add some white and green, and we're going to mix it together till we get this nice medium green. We want about equal amounts of white and green. And we're going to make these cool bamboo poles. So we're going to make these straightish rectangles with little bits of gaps in between them. We're going to add some to the left hand side of our canvas, and we're going to have them on an angle so they're not necessarily growing straight. We're going to have them come down to just above the bottom, and these are kind of our close bamboo. We can also use a little brush to brush on some of our straight green. We want to give them a little bit of texture, just makes them look cool. But that is a bonus step. You do not have to do that if you don't want to. Next we're going to take some of that color and we're going to add even more white to it till we get a lighter shade. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, except this time we're going to go behind the panda and all the way off the canvas. And these ones maybe won't go all the way to the top, because these are kind of farther away. They're kind of behind our panda, so they might look a bit shorter. And I would say add 2 or 3 or maybe 4 of each of these. So I'm using some straight green to make some leaves for my closer bamboo. These are the ones that are darker shade. They're a bit closer to us. And we're not going to necessarily connect the leaves into our bamboo. We're going to leave a little bit of space. And we're going to have these leaves kind of coming out of those areas where we left the gaps. And we don't have to add a whole bunch of leaves. We just want a few here and there. And we're going to make an even lighter shade of light green. We're going to use that to fill in the gaps of our close bamboo poles. See how now we're really getting that nice bamboo look? And it's starting to look really, really neat. And we're going to make it even lighter. And we're going to do the same to the other side. We're going to connect those sections together to make our bamboo poles. And if you want to add some leaves to this side, I would say just to use a green that's close to the shade we used for our first bamboo, or ones that are closer to us, because that way it's a little bit darker than these lighter bamboo poles, but it's not as dark as our close ones. Next we want to make a darker green, something darker than our background, but that's a bit different than our bamboo, but again not too dark. And we're going to fill in some ground below our panda. This just gives it a little bit of a surface to stand on. I would say mix a little bit of blue to some green with a bit of white. Add in maybe a drop of yellow just to make it not too cold. You can always test it by putting a little bit down, and if you don't like it, mix in some more color. So last we're going to take the wrong end of our paintbrush, our little one, and we're going to make a nice round dot with our brown. We can use a lighter brown or we can use a straight brown, just as long as we can clearly see it against the black. We're going to use that to add our eyes. I wanted to make mine a little bit rounder, so I kind of dabbed a little bit more on there. And then we're also going to add a little dot of white. So we're going to dip just the tiniest bit, and we're going to barely touch it. And that makes those cute little white dots for our eyes. And there we go. Our panda painting is all finished and it looks awesome. Thanks for painting with me today, everybody. We'll see you guys next time with a new painting. Bye-bye.